Hi, this is part 2 of the looping background lesson, and let's set up some looping animation now for each of these 3 levels. And I'll start out, let's see, with the sidewalk group. So be sure that you have sidewalk group folder selected, not sidewalk reference. That should be turned off at the moment. And then what we're going to do is advance to frame 1 in the timeline. Go up to animation, add keyframe, and you can say no to the question about the sublayers, and then advance to frame 96. And now we're going to use this reference. So turn on sidewalk reference here in the layers. And be sure you're still on sidewalk group as far as what's highlighted in layers. Click over here on the transform layer tool and hold your shift key down. And now we're going to pull to the left. So the point of that reference layer is so that you can match up very accurately the positioning of this second copy of that folder. Okay, so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to match up exactly there with the edge of that lighter color of the ground or the sidewalk, and the darker one is behind it. So once you feel you have it lined up, you can turn off the reference. You don't need to see that, and you don't want to accidentally click on that layer over there either. So at frame 96 here in the timeline, you want to click on that keyframe, right mouse button click, choose cycle, and then click on the relative button and change that number to 94, and then close the keyframe window. The next thing is important. You need to go and look back here on frame 1 in the layer translation row, this top one here, and highlight that keyframe, right mouse click on it, and you need to choose linear. You have to do this in order for this looping to look good, so don't forget that part. Now let's do the street. So clicking on street group folder, and don't click on street 2 or street in here, right? In fact, you need to close up that folder so that you don't get confused. And then go to frame 1, and then go to animation, add keyframe. Again, you can say no to the question about sublayers. Let's turn on the street reference. And now let's go all the way to frame 192. And with street group selected here, use your transform layer icon, hold the shift key down, and pull. And again, you can see that what you want to do is match up the black to whatever color you ended up with there. Okay. Now you can shut off the street reference. Be sure you're still on street group here. And with the keyframe at 192, select it, right mouse button click, choose cycle, click on the relative button and change that number to 190, and then close that keyframe window. Remember, going back, you need to go to the keyframe on frame 1 and right mouse button click, and you have to change it to linear. And finally, we need to do the buildings group. So I'm going to click on the buildings group right here. We have to go back to frame 1, and I know I'm way zoomed in. On frame 1, again, animation, add keyframe. Say no to the question about sublayers. And then turn on the buildings reference. And also, I'm going to zoom out on the timeline because, let's see, we were at 190 something. Let's change the total number of frames to 1000 right now. Okay, so put 1000 in this box and hit enter. And let's try 312. Go to frame 312. And then with buildings group selected in the layers palette and transform layer selected in tools, hold the shift key down, slide over to the left, and again you can see that you're using that reference layer so that you can match up more accurately where you want to stop that at, right? So right there. Once you've got it, you can shut off the building's reference, okay? And back in the timeline, at the keyframe on 312, we're going to select that keyframe, right-click, choose Cycle. Choose Relative, change this to 310, and then close that. Don't forget to go back to frame 1, and it's going to be tough to see because I've zoomed out here. So let's see. Okay. And on my frame 1, I want to change that one to linear. Okay, so I can zoom out now. Each of the 3 layers are traveling at a different speed. All right, that gives the illusion of depth. So you can go back to frame 0 and play this through. I'll click the play button. So what you'll see is that the front is moving the fastest, in the middle a little bit slower, and the back even slower yet. Now, it doesn't look so good when you can see everything on the outside of your stage area, right? Here, let me push the stop button. So it can help if you go up here to View and then choose the Show Output Only. And I have my output set to black, which I think the default is like a semi-transparent black, and you can change that in your settings. But then if I push play, you know, I get a little better sense of what would be going on there once it was rendered. Now we just have a little bit more to do, and I'll continue that in the next video.